Recently, I've been trying to frame more and more things from family pictures, original photography, huge canvas art, old college basketball jerseys. And each time I'm over here scouring the internet from different brands, trying to get the dimensions exact, hoping the materials are quality. And that's where FrameBridge steps in and takes away all of the hassle. FrameBridge makes it easy and affordable to custom frame just about anything. You could design and preview your final piece online, schedule to ship your items or drop them off in person, and they're great for giving special gifts to friends and family. Visit framebridge.com or one of their local FrameBridge stores in Southport, West Loop, and River North to start framing. Hands up, this ad is gonna make you hungry. That's because it's Wing Week at Woody's Flat Hopsmith Tavern and Fat Poor Tap Works. You can get a pound of wings for $15.25 all week at any of the Big Onion spots. I'm talking Hopsmith and Gold Coast. All three Fat Poor locations in Wicker Park, McCormick Place, and Lincoln Wood. Woody's Flat in Old Town is even doing a wing eating contest where you can win $500 and free wings for a year. I just pulled up on them recently and left with 2 orders of the barbecue wings. They also got a Malort wing sauce if you into that kind of thing. Aftertaste lasts for an hour. You have been warned. Don't miss Wing Week at Woody's Flat, Hopsmith, and Fat Poor now through August 3rd. Today on CityCast Chicago, why is building affordable housing so expensive? Will families dealing with flooding get any FEMA relief this time around? And what are some more things to get excited about in August? It's Friday, August 1st. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Welcome. If you are new to CityCast Chicago, we are, in fact, the #1 daily local news podcast in the city. If you ask Kobe, what does it mean to be #1? How many daily local news podcasts are there? To be honest, I do not actually know. I feel like you could probably count them on both of your hands, but hey, we still #1. Just this past week, we have talked about why are grocery prices so damn expensive. We have talked about the impacts of the Trump administration's attacks and dehumanization of trans youth. We also gave you our guide to August, some of the things we are most looking forward to this month. And that's where we're going to get started with our guest today. We are joined by some amazing voices from across the city, and today is no different. We've got Block Club Chicago's Jamie Nesbitt Golden in the building. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Scooter Gang. Gang.
Scooter Gang. That now is one of our oldest living inside jokes that I'm not going to explain to people. We're just going to keep it pushing.
If you listen, you'll know.
We are also joined by Borderless Magazine's Idaly Kampa. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you. Good morning.
This past week, we've had some very fun episodes, including yesterday where we broke down our guide to August, where we talked about some of the things we are most looking forward to this month, things we're excited to eat and drink, try around the city. So I want to start with y'all. Jamie, what is one thing on your August calendar?
Well, funny you should mention it since it starts tomorrow. My high school reunion weekend starts tomorrow, and this is the first class-specific reunion I'm attending. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know where my yearbook is. I'm guessing somewhere in a New Jersey landfill, but like I'm excited. Like we'll see what happens, right? Like it'll be cool to catch up with folks. For those of you who don't know, I went to Kenwood, which great
Coltwood.
School. It is a cult. But yeah, no, that's what I'm really looking forward to, catching up with old friends and old classmates and introducing my kid who is a current Kenwood student to the older generation, the OGs, so to speak.
Can I ask what your anniversary is this? I know you didn't mention it, and I know I'm probably rude for asking it. But I just noticed that some details was missing, just a couple of them.
Wow, man, you real nosy, Jay. You real nosy. I mean, I mean, class 95. Stop!
You know,
Stop!
I didn't say nothing. I didn't even move my face. I didn't even react. I was going to say I haven't ever been able to go to a class reunion. We would be, what would have just passed? I think this would be like maybe year 16 or something.
Oh,
but our
wow.
high school closed down, so we have to. So people have to see. Oh, but you couldn't control your face on that, dude. And so but it just means that people will like have to like create Facebook groups. It's nothing really organized, and I never end up going to those things. But I'm happy that I was going to say after all of this time, y'all are still organized. Y'all still talk. Y'all got another generation of Broncos, right? Broncos. Yeah, another generation of Broncos.
Yep.
Idly, over to you. What is something you are definitely looking forward to in August?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Arizona, so I'm really enjoying the Chicago weather. So I'm just looking forward to being outside. I'm training for a half marathon. I've not been a runner. I'm making myself a runner this year.
That's dope.
And this month, like my training's ramping up. So it's like it'll be a test. Like, can I really make it to 10 mile, 11, 12?
Making myself a runner is one of the most brutal and yet self-motivating. I'm gonna make myself a runner. Like I even just saying that, my knees is like, you ain't making yourself nothing, boy. You better go put that treadmill on incline and shut up. Idly, are you preparing for a particular half marathon that's happening in the city, or is this just like a personal goal you're tracking on your own?
Yeah, it's happening here in Chicago, end of September. Yeah. So
come on now.
It's my first ever organized run. I haven't even done like a 5K before, so I haven't been around that energy, but I hear it's like really motivating to
for
people who are doing it too. So I'm excited.
It's going to be great. You'll do great.
I know it's your first time on the show, and that technically was your first question ever answering on CityCast Chicago, but you said two things: that Arizona heat and half marathons in that heat. Ooh, you different. You different, G. You different.
You built different.
Something that is not different and stays the same every single week is we bring in these amazing Chicagoans to look back on some of the biggest stories happening in their worlds. And we end every episode the same way, making sure you go into the weekend with some good news. Jamie, let's start with you. Last week on the podcast, we were discussing two separate debates moving through city council around housing. One was about potentially lifting a ban on accessory dwelling units or granny flats and coach houses. The other was about upzoning a strip of Broadway and Edgewater. And in both cases, they were stalled in city council. This investigation that some of your colleagues at Block Club Chicago put out this week, because the conversation of affordable housing is dire because we need it. Jamie, why is it so difficult to keep expanding our affordable housing stock?
So my colleagues, Ariel Orelli and Michael Liptrot, sort of did a deep dive into the ins and outs of making affordable housing here in Chicago, which, I mean, wasn't really surprising to me because I've also been on the ground listening to conversations and hearing folks. And usually it's a combination of, NIMBYism and city council inertia or government inertia. But it's also a matter of the soaring costs of building affordable housing. It's not so much about poor design choices or developer margin. It's about inflated local construction costs, rigid zoning, approval regimes. So you're dealing with all of these things, and again, with inflation costs soaring, it's only going to get worse from here.
I mean, since Mayor Johnson has come into office, he's, worked to get a $1.2 billion bond through that would help fund affordable housing. He's talked about cutting some of the red tape.
Yeah.
Have we seen any changes in that process to get affordable housing approved and then funded? Because it's not just the developers who they talk to. It's also advocates on the ground who are working to grow the city's affordable housing stock, who are in many ways agreeing, saying, hey, we like that there's increased scrutiny, oversight over how affordable housing gets built, but it may be coming at the exact cost of getting things built.
So, I mean, I think Johnson, his heart's in the right place, and he is listening to his constituents in this way. But again, you have a very vocal group of folks who do not want to see this happen. Because they're concerned about their own property costs or their own property. And again, I think there's also the stigma attached to the idea of affordable housing, right? That, like the wrong elements will move in or yada, yada, yada.
It's the same thing we've always heard, but particularly the thing we heard when public housing was being torn down and sort of Section 8 housing and affordable housing became these dog whistles. And it's created this, or further entrench this system of housing discrimination that we've seen.
Right. And also we've made it very, very costly for developers to even broach this, right? Like there are so many like hoops to jump through in order to move this process along, and they get a little deflated by it. And I think that's fair to say. So again, I think it's a matter of looking at how we view housing and sort of rethinking it.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. Because again, it starts with the neighbors and then it moves to the government. But you have to start with your neighbors first and have those conversations.
Yeah. They focused in on the Missing Middle housing initiative, which is the hope to sell off more city-owned vacant lots for just $1 to developers and then subsidize those costs.
But here's the thing about that. Like, I've spoken with neighbors who have tried to buy into that, buy your lot for $1 program. And again, the hoops they have to jump through in order to make that happen, like, they're not giving it to just regular schmoes. Like, they're giving it to,
people who can afford the tax attorneys, who can go through the hundreds of pages of requirements.
Yeah. Understand the system and everything.
Exactly. We did an episode with someone who was purchasing a vacant lot a couple of years ago and was wanting to just build their own family's home on that lot. And they realized just how many things they had to go through. And this was long before this program came into effect.
Our housing supply is limited. There's only 134 units per 100,000 residents. So we have to sort of get over ourselves and figure this out.
The Summertime Shot isn't complete without a little theater, if you asking me, maybe even a musical. And I've got one you definitely want to put on your radar. Parade is going to be at CIBC Theater August 5th through August 17th. Winner of the 2023 Tony Award for Best Revival of Musical, Parade is based on the true story of Leo Frank, the sensationalized media coverage of his trial, and the anti-Semitic tension surrounding a tragic conclusion. The New York Times said this revival recalls an era of big casts, big stories, and big talent, a time when musicals actually felt like events. And you know how much we love an event in Chicago, dressing up, making a night of it, so that makes Parade a perfect addition to your summertime lineup. Don't wait. Get your tickets now at BroadwayInChicago.com for Parade at the CIBC Theater August 5th through 17th. Look, I know the kids may not want to hear it, but it's almost back to school season, which can be very stressful on families. But one thing you can start checking off your list: preparing your student for Chicago Public Schools selective enrollment exam. It's coming up, and that's where Top Marks Prep is here to help. Top Marks Prep was built by a Chicago tutor who saw what students really need: a structured study plan, plenty of practice, and a way to track their progress. Top Marks starts with a free diagnostic test, then creates a personalized study plan based on what your student actually needs help with. There's video lessons, targeted practice questions, and unlimited full-length mock exams, all tailored to the CPS exam format. That October exam is coming up faster than you think, so don't wait to prepare. Sign up today at topmarksprep.com/citycast and receive 15% off. Again, that's topmarksprep.com/citycast. Idly, I want to come over to a story that you're bringing to us this morning. Basement floods, they impact thousands of Chicagoans every year, but after the sudden rain we saw last Friday and Monday, we're back at the part of the season where individuals are calling by the hundreds to receive assistance from the city. And so many of the homes that were impacted in this last few bouts of rain were on the southwest side of the city. The calls for relief and assistance have already begun. However, this comes at an increasingly precarious time for FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency tasked with helping states, impacted individuals, and first responders prepare for, respond to, and recover from weather-related disasters. Can you talk a little bit about not only where FEMA is right now, but the governor and other local officials' attempts to get more federal funding as the agency is essentially fighting for its life?
Yeah, there's like a fight that's happening on two fronts. FEMA provides a lot of money in terms of helping municipalities prevent or, mitigate any massive impacts from these flood events that are very common in Chicago and are becoming more and more common. So these funds can be used for more green spaces, more trees, more green infrastructure, better plumbing, anything that can prevent this. And then there's emergency funding, and both are at risk, especially in the spring. We already had heard of a lot of grants that were cut. And so these conversations have been happening for a while. People did see this coming. It's like, well, flooding season is coming. What's going to happen? And so now it's the emergency funds that are at question more now, because we're in the middle of the floods and we're asking, are we going to get these funds or not? And yeah, FEMA's at a place where slowly it seems like it is shrinking. A lot of the grants are being cut. Emergency funds, Trump is saying that they will be reduced. And then we're hearing that these funds are being used for other uses, like building migrant shelters. And so there's so much noise when it comes to FEMA right now, as there is with a lot of things that Trump is pulling back at. And so what some lawmakers and older people are asking for is for basically the mayor and the governor to step in to ask for more funds, that we're in a state of emergency. There's a lot of flooding. And it's just very obvious that this isn't going away. It's not a one-time situation. Last year and the year prior, we saw this again. I mean, in 2023, I believe it was, 4th of July weekend, we saw back-to-back flooding. And some people are still recovering from that. Some people still haven't seen any money from FEMA. And then in a lot of these communities, it's people that have language barriers or that don't know how to navigate FEMA. They don't know that they have these resources. And so now these community organizers are not even sure what to tell people. Like, oh, you can just call this number. Well, we're not sure. We don't know where FEMA stands at this point.
I'm glad you mentioned 2023, because FEMA was not a shining example of a well-oiled bureaucratic machine. And I think what becomes more difficult here is we already know the city and the state do not have the money to step in. And so I appreciate the governor calling out the Trump administration for callously making these cuts, for firing the head of FEMA when he first got in, for saying post-hurricane season, we're shutting things down. But it feels like so much of those calls to the Trump administration to provide more funding are just lip service. We kind of need the conversation to shift to creative revenue sources, taxing billionaires, finding more money to Trump-proof the city. From the reporting I saw, over 2,000 calls have been made to 311 that were flood related. And so my hope is that the state and the city start turning their attention towards providing those emergency funds, finding that money from somewhere. Because at this point, I think we all know it's not coming from the top.
It's not. And I think, like you said, this is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina is upon us. Like, we have seen how ineffective FEMA can be, but there is this idea that we are dealing again with a normal administration, and we're not. They've made it very clear that that's the game plan. We're going to we're going to dismantle every agency, every institution that has been created to help us. So it's on, like you said, like, we have to come up with ways of combating this, of fighting this. And that means, sort of looking inward to, like, again, sort of fund, these things that, people rely on for help.
A lot of states are suing the Trump administration as they're hearing these announcements and as they're hearing some funding agencies rolling back some of the support that they're getting. And so that's one way that they're fighting. But while that's happening, that means just a lot of money is tied up while that is being processed. So yes, that's a step in sort of a good direction. But in the meantime, people are stuck in limbo, figuring out, like, well, how long is that going to take? When are we going to hear anything? And so not much progress there either.
Even prior to the Trump administration's attacks and dismantling of FEMA, I do think it was extremely important for the city and the state to get serious about long-term disaster planning. I think that flooding in 2023 reminded us that we can't just wait on FEMA or disaster relief or point people in that direction, because over the last decade, these weather-related disasters have only gotten more expensive as climate change has exacerbated them. And like, if we need to, as a city, as a state, get really serious about what it means to have long-term planning against climate change in this city. And unfortunately, I do not think this will be the catalyst for us having a more serious conversation, but it is clear we don't have that much more time to wait, not simply from a climate change perspective, but again, with FEMA potentially being folded in by December. Staying with the Trump administration, they have requested the Illinois election officials to turn over their state voter registration database, including very sensitive data about individual voters and detailed information about the state's efforts to clean up our voter rolls. But this goes far beyond the Department of Justice's jurisdiction. Can you kind of tell us what's going on here?
Some people say it's like a slow march to like fascism. I think we're like sort of cha-cha sliding into it. So on July 28th, the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division asked Illinois State Board of Elections for a copy of the state's voter registration database. And this includes highly sensitive information like driver's license numbers, social security numbers, dates of birth, voter maintenance records. This is tied to litigation accusing Illinois of improperly delegating election roll maintenance to local jurisdictions. And right. So like we know this is full of shit. And we also, like, again, other states have been asked for their voter rolls as well. We know where this is going, right? Like we see the play. And it's, again, a matter of now the opposition party would be the Democrats, I suppose, but it's a matter of them sort of fighting back on this. But I don't see that happening. We are now not only asking for voter roll information, we're also trying to get medical records of folks. Like, this is like huge and broad and overreaching, and we're going to use this for nefarious means. And we know that, but it just seems like no one's trying to stop it. With Illinois in particular, like we follow a decentralized like structure with like 102 counties and 6 municipal election authorities are all managing roll maintenance independently.
The system is down up, that individual counties sort of control those roles, and that kind of flows up in the system.
This is just wild. And when I read the story, I was just like, again, like I keep thinking about like how folks believe that Republicans are the party of small government, little governmental interference. And again, here you have this contradictory move, and that you're trying to get this information in hopes of, once again, sort of like disenfranchising Americans. Like, that's the name of the game here.
Disenfranchising, going after political opponents.
Yep. It's really going to be like maximum pettiness. And I think we sort of need to be aware of that, because again, I think a lot, again, it goes back to people thinking that this is a normal administration, and nothing about this is normal.
No.
Like, the parallels between this and what we were dealing with as a country 100 years ago are very, very clear. So we need folks who are in power, who believe in true democracy, to stand up and fight. Will it happen? I don't know, but fingers crossed.
Idly, I want to move over to one of your stories, because the Trump administration has upended 2 years long investigations into civil rights violations in Chicago. Can you kind of talk us through what's happening right now?
Basically, these environmental justice organizations in Chicago for a long time had been looking for a way, basically, for the city to realize that systemically, the way that zoning and planning policies are set in place just facilitate some very polluting facilities to end up in the South and West sides and lower income communities and Black and Hispanic and immigrant communities. And so they had been very unsuccessful in doing that by calling out the EPA. They were very successful in doing that by basically complaining to HUD. HUD did conduct an investigation. They realized that Chicago's zoning and planning policies enabled polluting facilities to end up in these neighborhoods, and basically found that they were environmentally discriminatory. That was a huge deal, because in finding that, they're obligating the city now to have to do something about it, or they risk losing a ton of money from the federal government that would be for housing. And so the city since then had been working on a plan to address that. They have to revisit those zoning and planning policies. They have to figure out, how do we reverse this? So the federal government played a huge role when they stepped in. The city had to look at themselves and see what they were doing. But the Trump administration dropped several cases around the country that HUD was investigating, and two of those were in Chicago, and this is one of them. And so now some older people and environmental justice organizations, environmental advocates, and people who, like regular people who this case, like they were really looking forward to seeing the results of this, are now waiting to see if the city is going to walk the walk after like saying that they were going to, that they care about the environment, that they care about their South and West Siders. Brandon Johnson is from the West Side of Chicago, and he's been saying that he's an environmental justice advocate. And it's really an opportunity for him to say if he's really going to follow through now that there's no enforcement.
Mm-hmm. And then the other lawsuit that you mentioned, there were two. The other one was about how the city and the city council's history of giving alders control over essentially what's built in their ward has led to the discrimination we see in Chicago. Essentially, the federal government and HUD was telling the city that they had to put up guardrails in this process to make sure that affordable housing is pushed in all 50 wards. And like you said, the question becomes, without the federal government saying you must make changes, will the city hold strong? Like Mayor Johnson and alders have agreed that aldermanic control has led to discrimination. And yet, like we talked about in some of the earlier conversations around upzoning, around accessory dwelling units, alders still utilize that power every single day to control what comes in and out of their wards. And so, like you said, the question really comes back to, will the mayor, will the city council stand up for, continue to enforce, and ultimately still make changes for the better without the pressure from these lawsuits and these agreements? And my concerns do remain high about what it means to not have some of these guardrails in place.
Definitely. Yeah, me too. I mean, and I do believe that a lot of officials are committed to what they've said. But at the end of the day, if there isn't hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, will alder people feel like they really have to support an ordinance that's introduced for this? Will they be really inclined to move that forward more quickly? And so, yeah, these both cases are like a true test to the city council for sure.
Remember that amazing little cafe you went to last summer? You know, the one with the perfect breakfast sandwich and them delicious smoothies? Or what about that hiking spot or that biking trail your friend told you about, but for some reason you can't remember the name? Well, with Overlook Maps, special places never get lost again, my friends. Create personal lists of places you've been and want to go. Hey, share your favorite hidden gems with friends and family. Let them discover that nail salon, that barbecue spot, that row of thrift shops that you've been trying to gatekeep. Or you know what, hey, if you want, keep your secret spots completely private. But what about this? Maybe you planning a trip with friends. You can create a share list where everyone can add their ideas. Maybe you visiting a new city. You can check out lists from locals who already know the best spots that you should pull up on. And here's a key part. No ads cluttering your list. No one selling your data to advertisers. Just your personal collection of amazing places organized exactly how you want them. Overlook Maps. Collect, organize, and share the places that matter to you. Download free at overlookmaps.com. And you want a little bonus? Go to overlookmaps.com/Chicago to see some of our lists and great spots on a map and in your pocket. Your places, your way. Every single episode of CityCast Chicago ends the same way. Me begging you to bring your ass back for the next episode. And I entice you with a little smooth vocals, with a little some good news. Jamie, what's your good news for us today?
So Lala's back this weekend, and Tyler, the Creator, is headlining. I won't be there, but I will be there in spirit. Also, I've been listening I've been listening to a lot of Tyler. Like I've been listening to Don't Touch the Glass, Don't Tap the Glass.
Don't Tap the Glass.
It's my shit. That's my shit. It's been a steady diet of Tyler clips and Jordan Lucas. I'm sure it's going to be a great show. I haven't been to a Lala in a few years, but again, I will be there in spirit. If you guys are going to Lala, have fun. Throw one up in the air for me, and don't tap that glass. Don't tap that glass.
Idly, are you going to Lala at all?
No, I have friends who are going, and I'm just like basically hanging out with them before and after.
Okay.
I'm like, I'll see you at the lake. I'll
through
see
the
you at the bar
homies.
after. Yes.
Idly, I want to give you some time to give us your good news. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, I mean, as you can probably tell, I follow environmental news a lot. That's what I focus on in my reporting. And so it's been really nice lately to have been meeting a lot of people who are doing some of the most like just grassroots amazing work in Chicago. And so I spent a couple of days with some high school students in Back of the Yards and Belmont Cragen who were planting trees. I spent some time in the Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary talking to this Muslim woman who is rallying her community to care about the environment in Chicago. And I think being in green spaces with other people who care about green spaces has been such a wonderful experience amid the chaos of the news lately. Seeing how like one person, small organizations, small groups of kids can really make a change has been really, really inspiring to see. And I think we can all use some of that news right now.
What does it mean for you to just be able to go out to Montrose Bird Sanctuary, just to be in space with people who are doing that sort of everyday on the ground work, even as these sort of big existential crises and challenges are in the back of our minds and in our present day constantly?
At the end of the day, no matter what, we need more trees. At the end of the day, we need clean lake. At the end of the day, we need clean air. And so there's people who are not losing sight of that, and they're focused on that. And it's really refreshing to see. It's also really cool to see how community comes together to do that. Despite everything that's happening, these are communities that are going through their own things, especially in communities in the Southwest Side right now. With immigration raids and everything, at the end of the day, they're like, we're going to keep living too. And we're also going to keep doing things that bring our communities together.
100%. I am going to wrap our good news up. As I said earlier in the week, I am going out of town for a family reunion. But one thing that has me extremely happy to get back to the city, next week, I am going to see Georgia Smith at the Salt Shed. Yes.
I'm so jealous.
You should be.
I was in the website yesterday, like, should I get them? Should I not get them? I also haven't been to the Salt Shed yet. I feel like that's like a key Chicago experience I should have.
I think they managed the space pretty well, and the sound is pretty damn good for what it's worth. It will be my first visit to the Salt Shed this summer. I plan on being there a couple times this month because they got some food festivals happening over there, some concerts, some dance events. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Never seen her perform live in person, so that should be a fun one. Yeah,
I got to make the most out of the end of the summer. You know, get all the concerts in, the festivals in.
I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today. First time caller, hopefully not for the last time. Idly Khampa, thank you for making time for us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I want to give a huge thank you to our guest from Block Club Chicago, Jamie Nesbitt Golden. Thank you for making time, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Scooty Gang forever.
Scooty Gang for life.
All right. Peace.
Before we get out of here, please bookmark our website, chicago.citycast.fm. If you go there and do just one thing, if you haven't already, subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. There, we are dropping in your inbox every single day news you need to know, events you can't miss, and everything in between. I want to give a huge thank you to the people who make CityCast Chicago possible. Our executive producer, Simone Alisea, our producer, Michelle Navarro, our Hey Chicago newsletter editor, Emmy Mack, our social media manager, Rick Homuth, our roving producer is Selena C. Reynolds. Our music is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. Hey, do me one last favor. If you like what you heard, share this with your friends and family. If you hated what you heard, share this with your enemies, your frenemies, and, strangers. I don't know. We gonna be back bright and early on Monday. We'll talk to you then. Peace.